Kids are hard. Like just straight up hard.
I get a lot of flack and a lot of judgment for choosing not to have kids.
I don't care if you have kids, I don't care if you don't. Like, your job is to make the company X amount of dollars.
Well, if I look at it in that way, then I would go over.
Come on over.
Should working parents get more flexibility while non-parents pick up the slack? We brought them face to face to find out.
Parents get more leniency at work than non-parents. In or out in 3, 2, 1.
Actually, very interesting.
I think inherently as a parent, I communicate my needs more. My needs are more than just my own needs. My needs are my kids' needs. My needs are my wife's needs, and the needs need to be taken care of. Like, if I leave work, that's usually why. I don't necessarily think that parents should have more leniency. I just think that they do because it's more of a vocal thing that's talked about.
I look at my team demographic and my future team demographic and think about needs as a whole. I don't think I've ever put them in a parent, non-parent category. Just because you don't have kids doesn't mean that there aren't people that you're responsible for or trying to take care of. And so I think, not to say that that doesn't exist in the workplace, but I think as a founder and as an executive, I take the responsibility to make sure that all of my people are taken care of, regardless of situation.
There tends to be this assumption that as, let's say, a non-parent, because of the fact that you don't have kids, that you have no other responsibilities in the world. A couple years ago, we lost my father-in-law, and it was a really intense situation where by the time we actually finally figured out that he was riddled with cancer, to the time he passed away was 2 weeks. My colleagues at work was just kind of like, why does she need to go to Huntsman again to see him? You know, it was that kind of attitude. And so that's why I'm just kind of like, we have to really take a person's full life into consideration, whatever that looks like, whether it involves kids or not.
Everyone should be held to the same standard, no matter their family situation. In or out in 3, 2, 1.
Let's go, dog.
I think standards adjust all the time. And very often there's a lot of situations where it's like, I know what is going on in someone's life. I'm not gonna press them or hold them accountable. And so I'm gonna hold them to a different standard than I would someone else on the same team.
So I think actually we might be having common ground here. When I say everyone should be held to the same standard, that includes the flexibility to be able to handle things when they come up in their lives. I think where you get into trouble is saying there's a certain class of people who have access to that kind of flexibility or are allowed to deliver at lower standards than other people.
So I'm in sales, and the standard is the standard.
Yeah.
That's
Standard
it.
is money.
Quota.
The standard is money. Yeah, exactly. The standard is quota,
It's just
and
a
it's
number.
like, I don't care if you have kids, I don't care if you don't. Like, your job is to make the company X amount of dollars, right? So for me, it's like, your standard is here, and if it's not met, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not doing what you're paid to do. It doesn't matter whether you have kids or not.
When I see in the workplace, there's multiple types of standards, right? You have like the quota, you have the amount of hours you're supposed to work. But in my experience, I worked with a developer who, his wife worked at the hospital during the day, but he needed to watch the kids during the day, so he'd work really early hours. So he wasn't doing the 9 to 5 like everyone else.
Was his work product still?
It was still being, but the standard of having to work 9 to 5, right? Mm-hmm. So there's different types of standards in the workplace.
To me, I feel like the standard is the outcome.
True, yeah, I see that.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Right, like the outcome of what your job is supposed to be, like depending on if you're in sales or if you're in dev, right? Your standard is to create what you're supposed to create and not suck at it. My number is not, it has nothing to do with the hours I work. It has everything to do with the dollars that I sell.
Yeah.
And it isn't fair, but sometimes I think people should suck less.
Well, if I look at it in that way, then I would go over.
Come on over.
Because it is, you're right, it is the outcome, but there's different.
Welcome.
Yeah, so.
I'm curious too, like, do you think it's okay for people to perform at a lower level depending on if they have kids or not? That's what I think it is.
I don't think it's okay for a long period of time.
Then come on over.
For a long period of time. But I think for short seasons, I think it's acceptable.
Okay, cool. You might be able to have something going on right now, but in a month, get your shit together. It can't last forever.
Yeah. And I would agree with that as well. And I think it's just, I think just where the holdup is because the standard is also different. Like I may have two people doing the exact same job, but I pay one $50,000 and another one $100,000. Like I'm gonna expect more from the one I'm paying $100. Clear and simple.
Having kids requires you to sacrifice career ambitions. In or out in 3, 2, 1.
So my wife, we want to have kids, but growing up, she always wanted to be a police officer. That was her dream ever since till recently, where we're like, we should have kids. You know, like we can't just live on a police officer salary and I can't just stay home and watch the kids, because being a police officer, that's a lot of hours and they're crazy hours. They're not very predictable. And so she had to give up that dream. So yeah, I'm full on this side.
Sacrifice is different than ambition. My career is really important to me. It's where I get fulfillment. I really need that brain. It makes me a better parent to be working and to have a career, to have that focus. It's good for my kids to see that. And I don't think I'm required to give up that ambition just because I became a parent.
I feel like there's valid points to what you guys have over there, but they're not as valid as ours. So I was a kicker on the football team and I was very good. Do I personally think, and this sounds so stupid coming out of my mouth, do I think I could have played in the NFL as a kicker? Yes, I do. And it sounds dumb. But the reality is like I was good and I know I was good and I still regret not doing that, but I sacrificed it for my children.
Is your ambition given up or is it just redirected into another place?
It's not necessarily redirected because there's still this like massive regret that I have. And I still feel it. I think it was Matt Gay, who he played for the Rams, if someone can.
Yeah.
I literally was as good as he is. And I remember watching it while he won a Super Bowl, and I was like, that bastard. And that's how, like, literally, that's how I felt. And it was like, and then I looked at my kids, and I'm like, you bastard. I didn't say that.
See, for me, I actually feel like my kids increased my ambition. So I feel like getting married and having kids forced me to work harder to provide for them in some capacities.
Easy to say because you're a man. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's true to a fact. Because my wife, you know, we chose to have kids, and just because of society purposes, she was the default parent to taking care of them, and I was the default providing.
So the reason why I switched was the phrasing and the way I understood the question now. Being in sales, it is hard to take paternity because you aren't necessarily given the relief that you would like, right? There's quota relief, but your mortgage still has to be paid. We had a preterm scare where our son was gonna come preterm labor, so we were trying to figure it all out, and I was stressed out of my mind. But that week in the hospital was one of my best weeks ever as a sales individual. The reason behind it was the drive and the ambition to take care of the little guy that was on his way.
I get a lot of flack and a lot of judgment for choosing not to have kids. And people say, well, it's because you're ambitious. No, I could do both. Would my family life look a little bit different? Would I have to have a nanny? All of these things? Yes, but I don't have to do anything. And I don't have to sacrifice anything that I don't want to.
Non-parents are expected to always be available. In or out in 3, 2, 1.
For me, like as an engineer, I've seen young engineers come out of college, and depending on the company, like they're always like, "Okay, you got to be working like 9 hours a day, just coding away," and don't even think about what other things they have in their life.
I just don't think I have a really good idea as a non-parent because I've always been a parent in a professional work setting. I don't think everybody should be available always. I personally don't live to work. I work to live. And I'm gonna be off the clock at times when I need to be. And I think that's more important than anything, whether it's for my family or for my personal development. And I think that's what a company should be able to do too. I think that's a difference between working in a great company and a mediocre one.
I think there's that assumption though in some organizations that, oh, if a person doesn't have children, then they're obviously gonna be more available than somebody who does. And that is not fair.
You just get known as the non-parent. You almost get a tag on you, and then they're just just like constantly going to you for different things. You feel obligated, right? Because you want to show up constantly, but then they don't understand the implications of that. And then there can be burnout or resentment or whatever that looks like. So yeah, it should just be just something that's a little bit more mindful, among the workplace.
Parental leave for parents ends up being a penalty for everyone else. In or out in 3, 2, 1.
So a couple jobs ago, I was working for Costco. And when I was in the salary role, if you have a kid, you get 6 weeks off. And I had a kid 6 days before like the biggest merchandise move of the entire year. And in my role, like I was the one in charge, and I felt terrible because I knew like not being there was gonna affect the entire team and that entire process.
I think it is above and beyond critically important that there is, a respectful, parental leave in place, because obviously our federal sucks. So that it comes down to, company by company. And I think that because it's something that you are planning for, then that means it's something that you need to plan in and amongst your entire team so that nobody feels like a penalty, for lack of a better word.
I'm here because, again, thinking about the sales aspect, like the only person that it hurts in sales is the person that is on parental leave. Therefore, when I think about it on another level as a CEO, you are penalized no matter what when someone leaves, period.
So in our organization over the past year, we've had so many babies. I think we calculated that we were losing almost 2 years worth of labor inside one calendar year from all of the team members that were out on parental leave. Where I come down on is penalty-wise is that to me is a leadership and management issue, bar none. So many of us run super lean inside of our organizations, and like one person being out is really rough. But that to me means you as a leader need to find the resources, need to figure out how you are going to make up that deficit so that everyone else on the team isn't carrying the penalty.
The question was, is everyone penalized? When I hear that you're missing out on 2 years of labor, your shareholders are penalized, the owners are penalized, any equity owners penalized. So you are missing out. To use the example of my 2 team members that are about to go on leave a month apart from each other, I have 2 options. I can either put more load on the existing team members so that they can come back and have a role and more opportunity, or I backfill them and I'm that garbage employer that says, sorry, there's no spot for you. And so then in that case, they're penalized. And so someone will unfortunately lose in the leave game.
Okay, got me.
Yes.
I'm going back here.
Welcome.
Holding strong.
So my perspective, as an engineer, I can't talk to like sales or like a CEO, but like when an engineer or someone comes and say, hey, I'm having a kid in 8 months or so, we can plan ahead of time, but it's like there's an issue where with software that sometimes it can break unexpectedly. So yes, you can plan ahead of time, but there's unexpected things as engineers that can just pop up, and then everyone else on the team has to be like, okay, we got to figure out this issue on our own. So
I'm not moving.
You guys are good. How about that?
I'm just so used to standing, just